Hello, welcome to Lil's Vintage World. That's very enthusiastic there, wasn't it? Today I am excited actually because I've got a new kind of book review series to share with you because there's some new books that have been published recently. Now, the British Library that you probably know, very famous library down in London, they publish the British Library crime classics. I love them. I have a whole house of them and I love reading them. There's some real good gems in there. And what they are forgotten classic mysteries that over the course of the 20th century have been forgotten and for whatever reason have gone unpublished for a while. And so the British Library have republished them in beautiful editions. And now they're doing the same thing, but with the British Library women writers. And here is one of them. So this is a series of books with beautiful covers. And again, it's looking at the 20th century, but we're looking just specifically women writers of the 20th century in fiction. Now, each book, as I said, has a beautiful cover, has the British Library women writers at the top, a lovely silhouette here with the title within, the side and the synopsis on the back. Inside the flaps you will see that it has another silhouette here, and this says the 1940s because this was published in the 1940s. Within you get a contents page and then a discussion about the 1940s, a little timeline of what happened at that time, followed by a little talk about the author, followed by a preface, then the book itself, and finally finishing on an afterword. So this is a lovely series. They're about £10 each one and I'm in love with them already. I would say if you like Persephone classics, then you will like these because they're the same thing really. They're forgotten female writers, although Persephone do publish some men as well. Right, I have 3 of these British Library women writers to share with you. Let's chat about them. So, first of all, the one that I've just showed is this one. This is Chatterton Square by E.H. Young. Now, this book was first published in the 1940s, in 1947 to be precise, and it is about a square of houses. So think of a square in houses that you often get in London, get them in Cheltenham, etc., where houses look on to one another. So you literally overlook a house, and that's what we've got here. And we are talking about 2 houses and 2 families. So first we have the Frasers. At the head of the Fraser family is a woman. She is kind, she's caring, she's compassionate, she's very nice and sweet. And on the other side of the square we have the Blacketts. The Blacketts' head of the family is the husband, and he has a stick up his bum. He really does. He's annoying, he's priggish, he rules with an iron fist, and what this book is about relationships and friendships and being neighbours. And it's not really a plot-driven book. It's about marriage, I guess, and relationships. It's interesting because I liked it, but I didn't love it. It's a book where I should have fallen in love with the writing style and that would take me all the way through, but I didn't. I enjoyed it, didn't love it, but I'm hoping perhaps on a reread I will love it more. I gave this 3 stars. Then we have The Tree of Heaven by May Sinclair. This book was published in the 1910s, 1917 to be precise. And this book is a coming-of-age story about the Harrison family. So we have the mother and the father and their 4 children. So we have Michael, Nikki, John, they're the boys, and we have Dorothea, or Dorothy, she's the only girl. And we begin in the late Victorian period and we go all the way through to when this book is published in 1917 during the Great War. As I said, is a coming of age story, so we start with them as children and they're growing up. We talk about friendships, relationships, schooling. As they're growing up, Dorothea gets into the suffrage movement as well, that is also discussed. And of course, the Great War. How could it not? Now, I really enjoyed this book. I felt hugely emotionally attached to this book and the characters within it. I've spoken before about how sometimes I struggle with children in books and coming of age stories, because sometimes I get really annoyed with the child but then I like the character as an adult, and sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes I don't like the adult but I like the child, if that makes sense. This book, it felt spot on, it felt perfect. I liked the characters as children and it felt so right. Each of them felt so right growing up into the adults that they become. However, because I became emotionally attached to these and it ends with the Great War, you can probably tell that I was feeling quite emotionally wrought in this book. Actually, I find myself, it got to the Great War part towards the end and I just went speed read, and that's what I had to do because I had to find out what was going to happen, if they were going to get called up, what happens after that, etc, etc. And my stomach was doing loop-de-loops, my heart was pounding, and so I didn't get to enjoy all of this for what I should have. I loved it to begin with, it's got beautiful writing, but then because it's quite plot driven at the end, I had to find out what was going on. And so I put aside the beautiful writing style and just concentrated on the plot. But I did really enjoy it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm sure on a reread, now I know what's going to happen, I can just sit back and enjoy the writing style until it gets to the end where I'll probably become a mess. And finally in this review I want to talk about My Husband Simon by Mollie Panter. This was first published in the 1930s. 1931 to be precise. Now this book is about a woman writer called Nevis. It starts in 1930s New York, and Nevis is looking back on the last few years of her life when she met her husband. She met her husband 4 years previously at a friend's party, and over that weekend her and Simon meet, they are sexually attracted to each other and they fall in love. They get married, and over the course of the years they work, they stay together despite the fact that they don't really have anything in common. Their sexual and physical attraction to each other keeps them together. However, the years have gone on a little bit. Nevis's writing isn't the best that it used to be, or that people thought she would become this great writer. And her American publicist, called Marcus Chard, is in London, and she meets him and they have this friendship, and then she starts to analyse herself, her life, her writing in a new way. In all honesty, it's a book that, although it has a plot, the plot isn't the main part of the book. It's not a plot-driven novel. I would say it's a beautiful writing-driven novel because the writing is stunning. Something that I think this book does really well is it encaptures the time. This book, as I said, was published in 1931, and I think really shows the late 20s and the early 30s life of a woman brilliantly, because here we have Nevis. Nevis is a writer and she's trying to earn a bit of money herself and her own independence, despite the fact that she's married to a man called Simon. Now, Simon's family, Nevis feels like she doesn't get on with. She's not part of them. She feels like she sticks out like a sore thumb because Nevis has an occupation. She doesn't feel like she's of that class, and she doesn't necessarily always feel welcome. Simon has a brother, and his wife encompasses the class and the family and what they represent perfectly. For Simon's brother's wife, what she's concerned about is running a good household, making sure her husband is happy, making sure her children is happy, that she runs a good home. And her main concern is making sure she looks good, the family look good, and where she should go for tea with her friends. She is part of the class of that family and she does it perfectly. She does it to perfection. But Nevis isn't like that, and this book explores that beautifully. When I started reading this book, I got to the end of the first paragraph and I knew I would love it. I knew it would become a favourite book of mine because the writing is magnificent. It's so me down to a T. I was reading this, I was laughing, I was getting a bit upset at times, I was getting quite emotional at times. My boyfriend was on the sofa trying to, I can't remember what he was doing, was he watching TV or he was doing something? And I was like, oh, can I just stop you there and read you this quote? And in the end, I started taking pictures of the quotes as I was going along because I loved them so much. I thought they were brilliant. And I would like to share a quote with you. I mean, I have put a quote up on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go and follow me on Instagram and you can read that quote. It's at Lil's Vintage World, but I want to read you this one. So, Nevis and her husband Simon have got a dog and he's called James. On weekdays, he, James the dog that is, waddled mildly round the shops on a lead, existing until 6 o'clock when Simon's key rattled in the door. In his heart, that dog despised me. Wonderful. I adored this book wholeheartedly, and I would say if you're a fan of Elizabeth Taylor, Rosamund Lehman, Angela Thirkell, Barbara Pym, you will love this book. It is tremendous. It is my very first Mollie Panter that I've ever read, but I want to read all of her work because her writing is exceptional. And if you couldn't work it out, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So there we have it. That is my first lot of reviews for the British Library Women Writers series. Chat to me in the comments all things this series. Have you read any of these books yet? If you have, which ones have you read? If you haven't, are you going to get to any of these soon? I am hoping to pick up as and when they are released. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care and I shall see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.